Sorry to surprise you again. I just wanted to talk for a bit about last night.
Ah, I was wondering.
I hope it's okay. I texted Allie to ask her if she minded. I probably should have asked you first, though.
I see. Things are making sense. Thank you for answering my questions, Danny. No, it's fine. I'm pretty adaptable. And I mean, it's not like I'm going to turn down a ride with a friend. I came way too close to saying cute guy just then. Yikes! Ahem. Yes, moving on. So, what specifically did you want to talk about?
Just last night and what happened there.
There's not much more to talk about.
I nearly got you killed.
That wasn't exactly your fault.
You didn't nearly fall into the ravine until I scared you.
Will you finally be satisfied if I agree it was your fault and refuse to speak to you again?
No. I wouldn't find that satisfying, actually.
Then can we agree that no one was at fault and it was just a series of unfortunate events? And that since tragedy was averted, we don't need to dwell on it?
I just feel bad about it. I usually try to avoid being seen because of this kind of thing.
Danny, regardless of what spooked me, you literally grabbed me out of the air and kept me from getting hurt. So I think that makes up for startling me, don't you?
But
I gave him a long look. I was really surprised he was so bothered by it.
I nearly hurt a friend. I can't just forget about it so easily. I shouldn't have stayed so close to the house. Normally I don't, but last night.
What? He definitely hesitated before answering.
There have been some other Veers prowling around the last few months. I really didn't want to deal with any of them.
I'm just gonna make a quick note here, Danny. Hold that thought. Don't worry about me. Ver is the proper way to refer to werewolves, apparently. It's just from the Middle High German Werewolf, wolf man. Ironically, the Ver part means man, though. Okay, so man-wolf. Or maybe it's not meant to be ironic. Maybe they claimed that part of the word as their label because they wanted to make sure everyone remembers they're humans too, not some kind of vicious animals. Nice. So those were wolves last night. He must have been trying to avoid scaring me. Are there a lot of werewolves in this area?
There are 2 large clans that live in the region. One smaller clan, and a handful of non-associated people like me. Those of us that aren't a part of a clan.
When you say clan, you mean like family groups?
They're more like socio-political groups. Not everyone in a clan is related by blood, though many are.
It was surprising he was actually sharing all this. Normally when I asked questions about specific things, people clammed up. Corvin! It was amazing how close to the vest everyone played their secrets. Then again, I was still the newbie, and no one quite knew for certain what I was. I guess I hadn't earned their trust yet. But Danny was just a really open guy, I guess. Do you not like them? The other werewolves, I mean.
It's not that. They're not bad people.
Then what is it? Danny sighed and frowned at the windshield.
Werewolf society is kind of hard to describe. It's not very inclusive. If you're not one of us, they typically want nothing to do with you. Conversely, if you are a werewolf, they pretty much expect you join a group and isolate yourself from everyone else. The groups don't always get along with each other. There's a lot of infighting. Battling for territory, dominance. I don't like it. But those of us that are loners tend to take some flack. Without a clan to back you up, you're a pretty easy target. it's easier to just avoid them.
That sounded intense. I guess that's why Sean and Derek were so interested in him then. Yeah. I don't think Sean and Derek are actually important to you and me, Danny boy, so let's just talk more about last night. I wanted to know more about last night. About the things that happened with him. I mean, I personally am very interested in Sean, but in the interest of romance, I won't be able to get together with Sean, so bleh. Was it rude to ask about that? I didn't know. Etiquette when it came to paranormal things was still lost on me, though he had told me I could ask about things if I wanted. There were definitely other things I was curious about too. Danny? Well, I was kind of wondering something. About your, transformation. I saw his lips curve up just slightly.
Yes?
Well, when you transform into a wolf, is it purely a physical transformation? The way you were talking last night.
Thankfully, yes it is. Even if my physical form is a wolf, my mind stays human. I'm still me. I just am not in a human body anymore.
It felt like a sad look flickered through his eyes as he said that.
But of course I can't talk in that form.
I guess that anatomically you're a normal wolf then.
Yeah, more or less.
And you always transform during the full moon?
The night of the full moon, a few nights preceding it, and a few nights following it. Supposedly, natural werewolves and most infected werewolves can transform at will, and aren't affected by the moon's phases. At least what I turn into is just an animal, not some sort of monster.
I studied his profile quietly. He doesn't think of himself as a monster, does he? Let's read about monsters. Danny, unlike a lot of werewolves, struggles to control his transformations. I get the feeling it's less about ability and more about motivation. I kind of feel like the real issue is that he doesn't really accept what he is in the first place. Yeah, he's fighting against his other nature, which is why his body's like, alright, time to become a werewolf, because you're never gonna choose it of your own free will. Okay, first order of business. Get Danny to accept what he is. Second order of business, smooch him. Third, get married. Did it. Because he was the furthest thing from it. Heck, he'd saved my life last night. I wasn't sure what to say to him. I was having difficulty coming to terms with not being a normal human, but I didn't transform into anything else. Even so, wolves were beautiful animals, and Danny was also beautiful. You know that I was only scared at first because I couldn't see you well, and I didn't know what was in the shadows, right? Danny gave me a surprised look, then smiled slightly.
What? Oh. Yeah?
I had really just fully come to and was trying to work out which direction to go. And at first, all I saw were your eyes. I kind of thought you were a bear or something. If I'd been thinking clearly, I probably would have put it together that it was you.
That's good to know. But for future reference, not every wolf you might see in the woods at night is going to be me. So you still shouldn't approach any without caution, on the off chance you see another.
Still, I think the eyes would give you away.
Every infected werewolf has eyes this color.
Come to think of it, Sean had gold eyes as well, didn't he? Yeah, I was thinking about that, but Derek doesn't. I don't think. But maybe he's a natural-born werewolf? So is there a way for me to tell it's you?
For now, if you see a wolf, you should probably just avoid contact regardless.
Does that mean no? Really, you couldn't do like a lift your left paw and stomp it 3 times, and then I'll know it's you. Or like run in a circle twice one way and once the other way. I'll know it's you. You know? Bark twice and howl once. I don't know. There's so many ways. Come on. Wink at me. I don't know.
Just no more sprinting through dark forests?
Definitely not. Danny pulled into the school parking lot and carefully pulled into an empty space. We both got out and he walked around the front of the car holding out his hand for my backpack. Ahem.
Can I?
I hesitated, unused to people wanting to do things for me all the time, but finally handed it over.
I don't want to scare you by warning you of the others. I'd rather just make sure you don't encounter any of them by accident. And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about.
What's that?
I know you don't want to talk about the sleepwalking thing, and that's okay. But I think it would be a good idea to tell Mozzie about it.
How come? I shuffled my feet uncomfortably now that this topic had come back up. He was right. I didn't want to talk about it.
Mozzie doesn't need nearly as much sleep as a normal person. He can keep an eye out for you in case you leave the house again. And we can make sure you don't wander around the woods anymore.
I chewed my lip reluctantly. I didn't want to worry everyone with a problem that may or may not even be paranormal related.
It's okay to rely on us.
I've been doing nothing but relying on everyone since all this started. I feel like I'm being a burden. Danny reached down and took my hand, squeezing it gently.
At the very least, can you rely on me a little bit more? It's a dangerous time of year for something like this to be going on unchecked. I don't want anything to happen to you.
My heart started thumping wildly. I knew Danny was the world's nicest guy. I knew he probably didn't mean anything by it. But I couldn't help but want there to be some special meaning behind the fact that he was constantly doing things like holding my hands and carrying my things for me. It's not that I don't want to rely on people, but if it's just a medical issue, there's no reason to broadcast it.
I hope you'd tell me if you were having a medical issue.
I stared down at our hands and wondered how long it was acceptable to hold his hand before it stopped being a friend thing. Ugh, I need to stop thinking things like this. Well, I guess it would depend on the medical problem. I mean, if it was something totally embarrassing, like excess sweating or halitosis, then I'm sorry, but I probably wouldn't tell you.
Okay, I'll give you that one. You don't have to tell me about every medical problem. But I mean...
His thumb brushed against my knuckles, and I suddenly found it completely impossible to look into his eyes.
I wish you'd trust me a little more.
Oh, dear. It's not that I don't trust you. The truth is, it's scary. I feel like if I start telling others about it and getting everyone involved, it means admitting that it's not just sleepwalking.
Denying the possibility that it's more than that could be dangerous. I don't want anything to happen to you.
I don't want to worry everyone.
Then I won't tell anyone about it. For now, okay? But that doesn't mean I'm going to just ignore it.
He squeezed my hand.
You're one of us now. I'm going to look out for you.
Was that the reason he was being so nice? Because I was one of them? A cryptic? It made me a little sad to think that it might be because of that instead of, well, just because he cared about me. Come on, girl, not like this. We walked silently until we reached the front door. Danny pulled it open and held it for me.
Will you have lunch with me today?
Well, I usually do.
I know. But today I want to take you somewhere a little special.
Are you taking me to the murder? Somewhere special on the school grounds? He seemed pretty amused by my skepticism.
I'm not going to make you skip school with me if that's what you're worried about. But it's not exactly on the school grounds either.
The word date kept flitting through my head, and I kept wishing I had a mental fly swatter to make it stop. Lunch at school did not constitute a date. Mysterious.
So, will you?
Of course I will. I mean, did he really expect me to say no?
Then meet me in the club room at lunch?
Sure.
Are you heading up there now? You usually spend your mornings there, right?
Yeah, it's the most convenient place to hide until class starts.
Mind if I walk you up?
Well, I don't mind. You don't have anything else you'd rather be doing?
Not really. Not anymore.
I guess that was true, now that he quit the team. That thought made me a little sad. I still felt like he shouldn't have had to do that. As we walked to the stairs, I contemplated my current situation. Danny, you said it's dangerous this time of year. Because of Halloween? Or Samhain?
Both. Particularly the latter.
He put a hand on the small of my back and quickened his pace.
We can talk about it more upstairs, though.
I tried to ignore the way the heat from his hand seeped through my shirt. I was surprised to find an uncommon trio of people in the club room. Oh, well, hello. What's Brenna doing with those two? Danny and I both paused in the doorway, staring at them. They were all quietly chatting on the sofa, and I couldn't make out what they were saying. The three of them grinned when they saw us, just like co-conspirators who were amused we weren't in on their secret. Or maybe Spencer was rubbing off on me and I was just being paranoid. Whatever they'd been talking about, they stopped as soon as we entered.
Hey, Dan. Didn't expect to see you here this morning.
I shot Danny a look, not surprised to see that he didn't appear particularly happy to see Derek and Sean. What on earth could they have been talking to Brenna about? From the way she'd snarked at Danny yesterday, I kinda got the feeling she didn't like werewolves. Or canines, at the very least. She is a cat, after all.
Hey there, little red.
Ugh, that again? I caught Danny looking at me.
Little red?
I shrugged. It's not like I was the one that picked that name. Werewolf humor, I guess? He looked suspiciously amused. It really must be a werewolf thing.
We were just leaving. See you, Dan.
They hadn't looked like they were intending to leave when we arrived. They'd been pretty deep in a conversation and looked quite cozy on that sofa. Whatever they were talking about, they evidently didn't want us to hear it. As the two of them left, Brenna followed them out, looking very much like the cat that swallowed the canary. Squint. She gave me a smug little wave before vanishing into the hallway.
I wonder what they were up to. Those two almost never come to the club room.
I was just wondering that same thing. He frowned, staring after them suspiciously.
Well, I needed to talk to Sean and Derek anyway. Do you mind if I go after them? At the very least, I still need to tell them not to bother you again.
It's fine. I can just do some reading before class then.
Alright. I'll see you in first period.
He followed after Sean and Derek, leaving me alone in the club room. I flopped down at the table, burying my head in my arms. There was way too much happening at once lately. I didn't even know how to begin processing it all. Hey! I looked up to see Allie lounging in the door, grinning at me. I knew that look. Trouble. Letting out a resigned sigh, I motioned her into the room. Is this where you tease me relentlessly about Danny? Yep! I knew it. Don't you have filing to do or something? I managed to escape. She bounded in and pulled up a chair. So, spill. Tell me what happened? Nothing happened. He just wanted to talk. Just talk? About? Things. Her eyebrows went way up. Things? Yes. Oh, come on, you're killing me. What kind of things? Were you always this nosy? Yep. You were just never sitting on any gossip this juicy before. There is literally nothing juicy that happened. Uh-huh. Out of the blue, Danny texts me to see if he can give you a ride to school. And you're telling me there's nothing going on between you two? I felt my face go hot. Does friendship count as something? Okay, this is like definite no. Middle one is like, we're friends. That's probably like for the good end. And then this one is like, I might love him. Barf. There's not, I mean, that is, it's not that I don't like him. I mean, not that I do like him. The ride to school has nothing to do with that. Wow, that was significantly less coherent than usual. Because you're asking weird questions. There is nothing going on between us. We're just friends. Friends! And you're not interested in being anything more than that. I didn't say that. I mean, I'm not saying I am. I just... Wow. You totally like him, don't you? No! I mean, I don't know. I buried my head in my arms again. I haven't known him long enough to like him. There's no rule for how long you have to know someone first. She patted my head and I glared up at her from my arms. Don't worry, I'm rooting for you. Thanks, girl. I let out a long, strangled groan. Even if I did like him, I mean... He was a werewolf. And I was I don't even know what. Some kind of weird fairy or something. Surely there were some inherent difficulties with that combo. I couldn't even begin to contemplate that on top of everything else. Logistics. Worry about that later. I just wanted to change the subject and talk about something else. Actually, there was something I was wondering about. Changing the subject? Yes. But I actually do want to know about this, so it's a perfectly valid topic change. Lay it on me. I've been wondering, what is the deal with Halloween? Or Samhain? Or both? Danny was going to explain, but he had to run off. The only thing that you've really said is that there's increase in activity in the paranormal community or whatever. What does that really mean? And what's so dangerous about that? Ah, that. Yeah. Well, it's probably something I could spend a whole day trying to explain. I checked the clock on the far wall. You have about 7 minutes. Okay, crash course. At certain times of year, the position of the Earth in relation to the Sun and other planets can cause shifts in the amount of magical current in the atmosphere. Magical current? Yup. There's basically a continuous flow of magic going through the air. It goes all around the globe, almost like a circulatory system. Starting at midnight on Halloween, those currents begin to overflow. And the culmination of that starts at sundown on the 31st, or Samhain. It drops off sharply at sunrise, then goes back to normal by sundown on November 1st. Okay, but what's the relevance? Why is everyone so worried about it? Well, the balance of natural and supernatural depends on those currents. When there's suddenly a lot more magic energy in the area, obviously there's a lot more paranormal activity as well. So, right, make a note, girl. Make a note about this. Let's see. Samhain, usually pronounced as Samhain, is an ancient holiday that begins at sundown on the last day of October and lasts until sunrise. It's been an important date since ancient times. It coincides with an increase in magic currents across the surface of the Earth, which makes it an important date for paranormal creatures. It's not the only overflow event during the year, though I'm not sure what all the others are. And because of the location of Pine Hollow, we get a lot of strange things flowing into town on those currents. Sometimes they get stuck and can't leave. Other times they cause trouble. So there's a lot of different stuff we have to keep an eye on. That's the abridged version anyway. There's also some stuff about gates and ghost roads. Ghost roads? So I'm gonna write it in your journal because I don't have time to talk about it. Let's see, Ghost Road, Ghost Road. Ghost roads are a strange phenomenon. They're also sometimes called fairy roads. Basically, they are an other space, a space that is not part of any specific world. Many cryptics use them to travel around or just hang out in them. They're really dangerous because they're not visible to the human eye and most people can't sense them. So you can stumble into one completely on accident and you can't always find your way out again.
But I don't have time to get into all of that.
How can they rely on kids for this kind of thing? I was just talking to Danny about this.
We're not just kids, we're interns. We work for them. And they're short-staffed, woefully so. We're not some big city. PSI is already a small department.
PSI?
Paranormal Surveillance and Investigation. It's the department within the agency that keeps an eye on the increased activity.
My goodness, all the notes. PSI is one of the departments at the agency, or PSI. They keep an eye on the cryptics in their jurisdiction and investigate any cryptic-related shenanigans. Nice. All the interns at the agency work within this department. I love the word shenanigans.
Anyway, I'm glad you asked about Samhain because I was thinking I should probably come by and put some wards up around your house.
Wards? Like warding off things?
Yeah, basically.
Is that really necessary? What kind of bad things were going to be trying to get in my house all of a sudden? Hopefully not Ori.
Probably not, but just to be on the safe side. Fae have really pure life energy. It can be attractive to creatures who feed on that sort of thing.
You're afraid something will try to eat me?
Well, it's not like I think anything definitely will, but since you can't really defend yourself yet, it might be good to be cautious.
You going to go put up wards for Ewan and Brenna, too?
This is your first Samhain as a full-blown cryptic. They've experienced this enough times that I think they can protect themselves.
I kind of hate the idea of needing to be protected. When do I get to learn techniques to defend myself? When do I get to do something besides be useless? Allie didn't seem impressed by that statement. She looked away, frowning.
You're not useless. You're new at this.
It feels like basically the same thing. Was it like this when you first found out that you're a witch?
Well, it was just a totally different situation. I already told you that I nearly got myself killed, so you can imagine what it was like.
She shrugged.
But I guess I did feel useless at first, yeah. Useless, helpless, overwhelmed. I think everyone who suddenly finds themselves on this side of things probably feels that way at first.
I'm tired of feeling useless. I want to do something besides be helped by others. I let out a long, frustrated sigh before I grabbed my things and started out.
Cheer up. You'll get the hang of all this soon enough. I'll have time to teach you some things after Samhain, okay?
I hope so.